So today we're going to talk about what men consider great sex, and we're going to give you a detailed breakdown. So hold on your horses a little bit because this is a conversation from men talking about sex. Okay. So really quickly, it just occurred to me, or not doesn't occur to me, but it's stated that roughly about 50% of divorces cite sex and intimacy as the problem in their relationship. So I think this is a very serious topic to cover, both for those of you who are single looking for love and those of you who are in a relationship. And what's interesting, I was in my men's group a few weeks back, and I believe there were 5 married men, 2 men that are one man in a long-term significant relationship, and 1 man that's in a relatively new relationship. I think it's been about 9 to 10 months. I guess that's not that new. And I bring up the topic of sex all the time. I think maybe it's just my personality. I do it for my content that I create, but I ask the men how often they have sex in their relationship. And the married men, interestingly enough, sadly, it's very limited. With one couple who has regular sex, for them, it's about once a week. Some of the couples who haven't had sex in many, many months. One man openly admitted he is totally stressed out in his professional life right now. And he's just not in the mood for sex. And even the one that's been in a significant relationship, but they're not married, they're barely having sex. And then the new couple are having sex all the time. So I decided to ask these guys, okay, what do they think is great sex? Now, we have to recognize that there's kind of an interesting dichotomy going on here because typically in the dating realm, men have sex on the brain, right? We men have sex on the brain. I have sex on the brain. In other words, it's part of my decision-making process when it comes to even considering commitment with someone. In fact, this is kind of tricky because I know a lot of people prefer to wait for marriage to be physically intimate. And yet what I've observed in the dating marketplace these days is having physical intimacy with someone is part of the decision-making process to whether or not someone will have sex, or the decision-making process as to who they would most likely commit to. So unlike in the past, if you wanted to get laid, those men had to get married. These days, if you want commitment, you have to have sex. Now, I said the word have to. I don't mean it that it's an absolute. I just mean it's part of the process. So before we talk about what men want, let's talk about women for a moment. You know, I've heard from so many of you, men are crappy lovers. A lot of men are selfish lovers. Men are bad in the bedroom. Men don't give oral sex. And of course, the thing I hear most is men have ED. I hear this frequently for those of you who are in midlife. And midlife, what I always say is after baby making years and before retirement. So my audience is predominantly between the ages of 42 and 69. And I hear from so many women in their 50s and 60s how frustrated they are with their sex life when it comes to being with men, because it's just a fact of life. Our body changes, just like your body changes. By the way, what's the color of this shirt? It's blue. Well, blue and black and white. But I'm going to say, just like blue in this shirt, I have to take a blue pill. A lot of men have to take a blue pill. And I just had my testosterone checked out, and it's actually it's right in the middle. So it's not the testosterone issue. It's just as we age, as our blood doesn't pump through our body the same. This is part of the issues. Now, ladies, I recognize you have some of your own issues that you might be concerned that you don't lubricate, or it's not as lubricated as you were before. Some men complain that women just lay there. Some men say women are hard to please. And repeat that: hard to please, hard to please, hard to please. Some women are either also bitter and jaded when it comes to sex. And then I hear stories how both masturbation for men and women actually affects their sex life, how pornography for men deeply affects their capacity to feel physical intimacy with someone because they're so used to their gorilla grip, if you will. And I've now recently heard that when with women with vibrators, that I don't know if there's studies been done. I was just speaking to somebody about this, so don't quote me on this, but that actually can affect their ability to experience pleasure. So there's a lot of factors that are in play when it comes to sex and physical or emotion, or excuse me, sex and intimacy. Now, I just started to say emotional intimacy because earlier when I said roughly 50% of divorces cite sex, and actual intimacy is the primary reason why they got divorced. I believe money is up there as well. Like those are the top two things that cause divorce. But we're talking about intimacy. It's not just the physical act of sex, it's the emotional connection that we create with another human being. So it occurs to me that for those of you who are single and looking for love, this is a radically important conversation to be talking about. And so I want to invite everyone really quickly. There is a book by Doctors John and Julie Gottman called 8 Dates. Now, this the top says Essential Conversations for Lifetime of Love. Now, if you're not familiar with this book, there's a link below to get all the books I recommend in the show notes. It says Jonathan Recommend Books. Okay, I'm going to turn to chapter 4, which is about love and sex. And what this is it's about having conversations about physical intimacy. If two people are going to engage in it, rather than burying our heads in the sand, rather than being naive to it, I'm a big proponent of couples actually talking about physical intimacy, even though it's a radically tough conversation. And what's interesting, they offer some open-ended questions you may want to consider talking about before you become physically intimate with someone, or right around the time you're physically intimate with each other. So here's a couple of the questions listed. Okay. Think about all the times we've had sex. What are some of your favorites? What about the time what made it your favorite? So this is obviously for couples who are been in relationship for a little bit, the first question. The next question is, what turns you on? There's almost this grand expectation. I swear this seems to happen. There's this expectation that if a person doesn't know what turns you on, they are a bad lover. When you could simply say, hey, if you move your hand this way and turn your elbow this way and move your neck this way, it would be exactly what I need. Why is it we're not asking those questions, maybe even before physical intimacy? By the way, I know I made a generalized statement there, but it occurs to me that most everybody seems to have an expectation that the other person is supposed to be a good lover without actually looking at their own capacity to be a good lover. And then some people have an egoic perspective of them being a good lover. But so why not ask the question, what turns you on? Here's another great question. How can I enhance our passion? How can I enhance our passion? What's your favorite way for me to let you know you want to have sex? What's your favorite way for me to let you know you want to have sex? These are great questions. Where and how do you like to be touched? Where and how do you like to be touched? So there's more to it, but I highly recommend this is a great conversation starter book to help couples get closely more emotional intimacy with one another. But Jonathan, this sounds like you're interviewing, or this sounds like it's too forced. Folks, we need to be grown-ups today. Let me repeat that. We need to be grown-ups. Stop expecting some sort of James Bond kind of lover out there. Or I was just watching a movie with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They get in this gigantic fight, and through that they find their passion, and they make love, or well, you don't see that part. But James Bond doesn't exist. Angelina Jolie is a movie star, kind of thing. It's not like pornography. It's funny. Pornography is always, in my mind, pornography is this. He goes down on her, she goes down on him. They have sex upside down, they have sex sideways, and that's basically making love. Well, that's not true love making. So I'm encouraging everyone to have deeper conversations when they're in the beginning stages of a relationship. Ask the questions that's listed in this book. And you might find that you can build deeper intimacy with one another. And I'm in a moment, I'm going to share what men consider great sex, and I'll give you the breakdown. But I want to recommend another book for everybody. If you haven't read the book Emotional Intimacy by Robert Masters, I highly recommend both you and the guy reading this book together. And let me tell you why. Physical intimacy is to some degree an act of pleasure, okay? What really enhances pleasure is a true, genuine emotional connection with another human being. That enhances the pleasure. That takes it to a whole nother stratosphere, okay? So I've heard this. Okay, I'm going to share something personal with you, but I was a player back in the day. I was an unconscious person. I was driven by the testosterone, and that's, you had to spread your seed. I was an emotionally unconscious person. But I recognize now that I want a heart on to go with my hard on. Let me repeat that. I want a heart on to go with my hard on. And many men actually do feel the same. They just haven't been in an environment where they feel safe about this. And just like, emotional safety, to talk about, like, look, and I openly admit I have to take a blue pill. I don't think that's a big deal. For some men, that could be a gigantic deal. Just like for some women, how they feel about their body can affect how they physically interact with a man. So I'm a big proponent of having these kind of conversations sooner rather than later. Build the emotional intimacy with someone, so then when you're having physical intimacy, it just enhances everything. Okay. So I know this topic is what men can consider great sex. I think to some degree, this might be interchangeable. It might not. I'm sure women have their own expectations around sex. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But let me share with you what the group of men, this was the general consensus I got from talking to, I think it was 7, 8 guys, okay, over the course of the last few months, asking them about their sex life and what they thought was great sex. So to some degree, this is just purely my own research, okay, that I can't speak for every man out there, but this feels like a kind of a good generalization. So number one, most men want sex on their timeline. They want it on their timeline. What they basically said is, we want an agreeable partner, somebody that when you say, hey, let's go and have a quickie, they're like, okay, I'm game. Or, hey, let's go take an evening off and make mad love with each other, I'm game. What they want is it on their timetable. But more importantly, what they're really saying is they want an agreeable partner. It's not like you're pulling teeth. It's not like you're having to beg for it. Now, I know some of you ladies have said the exact same thing to me about men, that you've had to like beg the guys to have sex with. Well, yeah, a lot of men are stressed out. Their testosterone is a bare minimum. I mean, they're usually, I would say they're either, just like women might feel embarrassed not being lubricated enough. Although there's a great product out there, by the way, called Uber Lube on Amazon. If you haven't used it, some people use coconut and other types of forms of lube. But, oh, God, I went off a tangent there for a second. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought, folks. I do that on occasion. That's why I shouldn't interrupt my guests when I interview. I know some of you complain. I just have this capacity to go on tangents. I'm trying to get better at that. But coming back to agreeable partner, okay? And that may not be as important to you ladies, but I know for men, that is a gigantic, important desire most men have, is an agreeable partner on their timeline. Number two, this is going to feel uncomfortable for me to share this, but this is something all the men said the same, was they want to have a blowjob to completion. A blowjob to completion. Okay, oral sex just let's get clear. As men age, for some men, it could take forever for them to get off. Okay. Just like for a lot of women, oral sex could be the same thing. And I know many of you ladies are frustrated because men aren't giving oral sex or they don't stay down there long enough to completion. Well, what men consider great sex is a woman who will go till completion. Hey, look at, I think that's a desire. I think that's a natural desire for both men and women alike, is when oral sex is performed, that it goes to completion, or at least there's a willingness to go completion. And some of you might be saying, well, Jonathan, I've been down here forever and the guy is not going off. Like at some point you have to take a break or just say, hey, is this even going to work for you? But I think that's a desire. But, men also have to take ownership on their part. If they have trouble ejaculating, then they have to be a participant in this process as well. I think, again, having deeper questions with one another will enhance the opportunity of having great sex for the two of you. By the way, Debbie says, does Uber Lube, do they deliver? Again, that's Amazon. They always deliver. Okay. Before I get into the last one, I've got three here. It's interesting when it comes to sex. Many of you know I poo-poo long distance relationships or long distance dating, and for a variety of different reasons, because most people do it from an unconscious place. But what I've observed with a lot of people that have done long distance dating is they actually talk about sex quite a bit. They talk about sex quite a bit. They oftentimes have phone sex. So before they ever meet, this has been a topic of conversation that occurs. So why are we so afraid to do this? It just occurs to me, like the short distance dating, you would never talk about sex beforehand. But if you're doing long distance dating as part of the repertoire of getting to know someone, oftentimes there's phone sex or there's conversations about sex. And again, I'm just pointing out something that just occurs to me as interesting. Okay, the third thing, what men consider great sex, is most men want to know they pleased you. Most men want to know they pleased you. And what the men said in the group is they said that they want to know that a woman can have both a vaginal and oral orgasm, both a vaginal and oral orgasm. Now, from what I understand, because I can't speak for a woman, is for many women, they need significant foreplay ahead of time to help facilitate that. They need to feel a true connection with the person. Now, some women, biologically speaking, might struggle in those areas. And I think it's important. Here's the thing. And I know women who fake orgasms just to please that partner. I'm just not a fan of that. It's because it's false. It's false intimacy, in my opinion. I think having conversations, talking about what pleases one another, actually helps enhance the process. But men, and I've spoken to women, they feel the same way. They want to know that their partner is pleased. I think when two people genuinely care for one another, you want to know that the other person is pleased. So I'm just here to point out that these are kind of the general things most men think about. And I know you think about the same thing. And I know, ladies, this is a struggle for many people as we age. Our bodies don't operate the same way as they did in our 20s and 30s. So this is why, again, having grown-up conversations, as I discussed earlier, talking about these things, just like what the book points out, might help create more emotional intimacy with your partner, so then you can enhance your physical intimacy. And again, much of what I shared today is generalizations to some degree, but for the most part, it seems pretty consistent. And again, ladies, you have every right to complain about men. Men seem to complain about women. Certainly, biologically speaking, we can't change how our body works. I mean, unless we consciously make choices to enhance those things. And just recognize that this is a very difficult conversation to have with somebody. And again, that's why I recommend the book 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. Again, I'm going to pull out the book because it helps begin the conversation. So maybe if you start off on the right foot, you don't end up like those couples that barely have sex anymore. And for those of us in midlife who are single, I think we'd like to go out with a bang to and have really good regular sex with one another. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There is a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There is a link to follow me on Instagram, to join my mailing list, to get my dating vows and get all the books I recommend, all listed below. All right, those who know my format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, write the word question in the chat box, or you can write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. That's a picture of him right there. It's my son who passed away over 5 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and scholarships to coaching as well. And also, if you want to join the hot seat, I just put a link right there to join the hot seat as well. Looks like a couple of you agreed with me and said it resonates. I'm sure many of you might have disagreed with me a little bit. Again, this is a conversation, so Annika wants to suggest I say role play, and they say that is too much. Again, Catherine says foreplay is not dead. I would like to hope people that's true. Debbie says, "What's a BJ without completion?" That's where the person starts. They do it for a minute and then they're done. Yes, Uberlube delivers. You can call Amazon. They'll bring it right to your door. Annika says, why is it that a man wants me to do everything he likes, but not what I want? This is in my experience so far. So if you slept with 5 men in your life, I'd say that's a small random sampling. Okay. I don't know how many men you've been physically intimate with. I know I'm the type of person that, again, wants to please my partner. I am more than happy to accommodate most anything. I know the group of men that I was with, I think they're along those same lines. I think, okay, I'm going to say 50% of men are selfish lovers. Okay. I will ponder that thought, or maybe even more. I will say there are a lot of unconscious lovers and very selfish lovers. So I could see how that, your random sampling, if you've only been with 5 men, maybe you've only been with 2, that's not enough to really gauge a sampling. But for the most part, I would say there are a lot of selfish men. There's a lot of selfish women as well. And a lot of women, okay, one thing about women I've observed is they oftentimes will have obligatory sex. And I don't feel like that's a healthy component within a relationship if you do it out of pure obligation. Now, sometimes you may go into it going, I'm not in the mood. I've certainly have had experiences where a woman says, I haven't been in the mood, but I'm grateful that we did it, kind of thing. Okay, I'm not in the mood, but I'm grateful we did it. That might be okay. But if it's always under an obligatory standpoint, I can imagine that would be frustrating for both her and probably not really fair to him as well. I think having conversations could change that dramatically. Rachel says, most men want to get fucked, completed blowjobs on alternative sex occasions. You know, I'd like to believe that it's more than there's more than 20% of men that are in it for more of a heart on than just the act of sex. Again, I can't speak for all men. I do speak to groups of men on a regular basis, but then these are probably more conscious men. I certainly know when I was in my 20s, I was a very unconscious man, and some men don't grow up. So I recognize that might be the case. Awaken to Yoga with Vananda says, how long is too long to see each other in a long distance relationship? I think if you're asking how many days apart should it be? Well, let's differentiate between two people who met and then they became long distance after that versus long distance dating. Here's what I've observed. How two people build deep roots of trust is through social activities, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills both in their personal and their professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that eventually leads to either moving in together or getting married. Okay. So that's how I've observed how trust is usually built. I think it's very difficult to build trust if you're not seeing each other on average at a minimum of once a week. You know, long distance, it makes it, the problem with long distance dating is oftentimes it's a bubble. They're in a bubble. So here's what I would recommend. You spend 2 weeks, 4 weeks in each other's homes respectively. But Jonathan, we don't have the type of lifestyle to do that. Then why the fuck are you dating long distance if you don't have a lifestyle that would allow you to be in each other's home for a significant period of time? That's just my point of view. Many of you know I was in a long distance dating dynamic and we moved in together rather quickly, but we spend a significant amount of time together to get there. If you can't see, by the way, even in regular distance, if you can't see each other at least once a week, that's going to be very hard because then you're on the phone. How's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Oh my God, I really can't wait to hear about your day. You don't genuinely get to know another human being over the telephone. You can get some surface things over the phone, but you can't build trust over the telephone. It's very difficult, to say the least. Okay. Annika wants to know, should we talk about body count? This is very popular with young people. So for those who don't know, there is a term out there called body count that's discussed in the red pill community. This is effectively how many people you've been physically intimate with. Okay, physically intimate, the body count, the number of people. Basically, according to younger men, they would prefer to be with a woman who's never been with a man or has only been with one or two. It seems like the younger generation, there are many women who have had physical intimacy with well over 50 to 100 men before the age of 30. I'm not here to judge that. I could imagine how somebody might perceive that as promiscuous. And certainly if a man slept with 100 women, that would be perceived as promiscuous. And, but that's what the term body count means, how many people you've slept with. All right, let's keep going here. Bump, 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 bump. Kari says, why do you think some men doesn't like to receive oral sex? Some men don't like to receive oral sex. Some women don't like to receive oral sex. Some men don't like giving oral sex. Some women don't like giving oral sex. Some women don't want a man to ejaculate when she's giving him oral sex. I think personal preferences are unique to each individual. You know, I'd invite you to explore that question for yourself. Some people think it's grody to do it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I don't know how many of you feel about it, but some people feel that way. But again, that's a personal preference. So hope that helps you with that question. By the way, in a few minutes, I will share the story about the date I had the other night and kind of give you an update. So I want to get through some of these questions, but I will share the story of the date I had the other night, which I talked about on my last live stream. Okay. Kathy says, I want to be prepared in case the man is not recommendations on assortments I should have on hand. This is new. Okay, Kathy, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about condoms, which I'm just throwing this out in the dark because I don't know what you prepared in case it's not. You know what? I want to share something, but it's way too TMI. But I would say have regular size, have lubricated, and have magnums because you don't know what you're going to end up. At least those three. I'm not sure from for some women, latex. I mean, the material could affect your body. So certainly it's a good idea to have it for yourself, but I would have those three, whether it's lubricated, whether it's regular size and magnum size. Okay. Hope that helps. But I'm assuming you were talking about condoms. Trista asked the question. If you feel comfortable, how did your date go the other night? Okay, everybody, since it just came up and I brought it up myself. Last week, I connected with a woman through a dating app called Bumble. And she wrote me a very cute little message. It was a very sweet message. It sparked my fancy, and I was attracted to her photographs. And then we started a text message exchange. She had a propensity to write a novel, which kind of fits my personality because I like depth. So I felt like there was some depth there. And she was writing quite a bit. We went back and forth for about, I think it was in the morning on Thursday. And then we got on a phone call briefly. We got on 2 phone calls in the course of one day. And hey, she was into personal development. She was into spirituality. I talked to her about plant medicine journeys. She's been fascinated and desirous to do it. So we had this synergy. I have a photograph of all the books that one of the pictures in my dating profile is a list of books. Here's the picture. So you can see the books, Don Miguel Ruiz, Daring Greatly, Return to Love, Untethered Soul, Attached. My book is in there, but you can't see it. Hoffman Process, 8 Dates. So she commented on my books. And so she goes, wow, I've never connected with a man who is so well read in the area of relationships. And then she found out I was a dating coach, and she kind of was like curious. She was like, oh, well, are you on here searching for clients, or are you serious? And I said, no, I'm serious. So we had a couple conversations that went well, and I'd asked her out for Friday night, but she openly admitted that she had a date on Friday night. So I was so tempted to text her the entire date. How's your date going? How's your date going? Because I'm a brat that way. So we met on Saturday night. Coincidentally, she wanted to come to my neck of the woods because she liked that I live by the beach. We went for a walk along the beach we got together earlier. We actually pulled into the parking lot at the same time. So we walked into the restaurant together. I was very attracted to her. She complimented me on my looks. She said I was handsome. To a Leo, that's like stroking his mane. And we had a very pleasant evening. And then we went for a walk in the village area, and we went out for some little dessert and some coffee. And then I walked her to her car. I think we were together cumulatively about 4 hours. But the one thing I didn't feel, even though we had a good time, to be honest with you, I didn't feel like she was that into me. I just didn't get that vibe. I think there's this vibe of being pleasant to another person, and I can be fun, I can be gregarious, I can be vivacious, but I wasn't feeling a vibe. She was into me. There was no kiss or anything like that, kiss on the cheek. And so as I processed it the next morning, I'm like, well, I'd like to see her again, but I'm not getting a vibe that she's into me. So I texted her first thing in the morning. I said, hey, look, I had a great time. I really appreciate it. But before I suggest seeing each other again, I want to check in with you because I got the sense that there wasn't an energetic connection between. I said, I said, I got the feeling you weren't into me, that there wasn't an energetic connection between the two of us. And she wrote me back and said, you know, I've been vacillating all morning what to write you, but you nailed it. You know, you put the nail on the head. And she wished me all the best. I wished her all the best. And then 10 minutes later, our profile on the dating app had been deleted. So why I'm sharing this with you is that, you know, you can have a really good date, but it still not be a connection. I would have liked to seen her one more time to confirm it, but she didn't feel that way. And honestly, if I don't feel like someone's excited to see me again, then I'm not excited to see them. I was curious to think, you know, maybe there was, what I did say in my message, if I misread this, please let me know, because I might have just been misreading her energy. She might have been shy or something like that. So I'd asked, did I misread this? And she confirmed that, no, that's how she felt. I feel a little disappointed because it takes a lot of effort these days to go on a date. Now, did it take a lot of effort? No, I just, you know, took a shower, shaved, put on some nice clothes. I mean, that's about the significance of the effort. But there's a lot of emotional effort when you connect with someone. And I wanted to go in hopeful. I actually invited her to a restaurant I'd never been to, because I have this fantasy that whomever I meet, we meet at a restaurant neither one of us have ever been to. I'm kind of a romantic in that sense. So I chose a place I'd never been to. She'd never been there. I went in hopeful. So it is disappointing when things don't work out. And yet, this is part of the process. We have to be willing. Love is a ludicrous undertaking. It is so fucking insane what it takes to make things happen these days compared to in the past. But I'm not going to let this experience break me. So to share your question, Trista, that's what happened on the date. I'd be curious to see if I'm going to read the comments to see how anyone felt about that. Annika said, perfect date. I think you didn't get to the point I shared. So what do you guys think about what happened? You know, Debbie says your instinct was right. McCoy says, oh, bummer. Yeah, I mean, this is just part of the process. You know, I know many of you appreciate, and some of you even adore me. You know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And honestly, I'm not so sure she was the right. Well, certainly, if it's not right for one, it's not right for both. So she, you know, to some degree, I think we were doing each other a favor. Sometimes, so I didn't say this earlier. I think that she had a date the night before and maybe she wanted to see that man, or maybe she's playing the field. You know, I'm a big proponent of dating one person at a time. You know, I think about what, you know, so Debbie asked the question, or Trista says, do you feel like you could have done anything differently? Abso-fucking-lutely no. I was my authentic self. If someone can't appreciate, look at, folks, you can tell I'm rather intense, okay? I even wrote a message to a friend of mine. She asked how the date was. I said, maybe I'm too intense. She goes, the right woman appreciates who you are, Jonathan. I'm intense. I'm really fascinated with human behavior. I'm fascinated with the nooks and crannies. This isn't just my profession. This is my passion. And someone who's the right person is going to appreciate that and want to talk about those things. We talked about a lot of personal development things. Maybe that wasn't her jam. Maybe there's more healing that she needed to be done. I think by the way, she wrote me a nice message, said she thought I was handsome, intelligent, generous. I think she was vivacious and pretty and kind. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Maybe she had a better date the night before and she wanted to see that man. This is where, you know, this is the tricky part of dating today. I think a lot of women get swiped on and hit on by so much that sometimes you have way too many options. That could have played a part in it. I don't know. But those are just some of my rough thoughts. But you know what? I genuinely wish her well. I think she was a really nice person, and I'm grateful for the experience. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Todd says, Jonathan, you met someone just like you, a super player. Well, let's Todd. Let's think about this for a second. My relationship with Marie ended in July of last year, which is almost 10 months ago. This was the first date I had in 10 months. First date I've had in 10 months. I've been very selective. I didn't try to sleep with this person. So I don't see how you think I'm a player. Was I a serial dater in my past? Absolutely. But I don't see how you can say that comment. But you know what? I wanted to give you an open forum to speak whatever's on your mind. And by the way, if you have the balls, join me live and ask me that question. I'll just put you on the hot seat right there. Laura says it's called Next. You are overthinking it. What makes me say I'm overthinking it? I just offered some possibilities of what happened. I didn't overthink it. Megan says, I definitely adore you and your occasional cursing outbursts. It's disappointing, but I believe that your woman is out there. I'm a Gemini, so intense and the weird, and my person embraces it. I've always thought Geminis are schizophrenic. Maybe it's that duality. Just kidding. No, Debbie, it was not a free meal. I was the one who offered. By the way, I was very upfront. I said, I'd like to plan and pay for the date. I said that before we ever met. I was more than happy to be generous in that way. And by the way, when it came to coffee and the dessert we had, she pulled out her credit card and she paid. Gloria said, and by the way, it was her suggestion. She said, put your money away. That's okay. That's successful meet and greet. Yeah, we had a nice meet and greet. All right, let's keep going here. Karen says the date might have already fallen for the other guy. I mean, she claimed not. Yes, Jojo, I let her pay. You know what? That's called the capacity to receive generosity. And by the way, she insisted upon it. That would be insulting to, by the way, it was like all of $10. So I think that just demonstrates good partnership skills, but not everybody agrees with me in that way. But yes, I treated the $200 dinner, which it was not $200. I treated for drinks and dinner, and she was nice enough to be generous. And I wanted to demonstrate I can receive generosity. Jennifer says there are so much cynicism in the comments tonight. Yes, it fascinates me how human beings have their constructs of how they think it should be. By the way, everyone, my voice is not necessarily the absolute. I'm here to just offer perspective. I invite you to make your own conclusions. If it's important for some women that the men to pay for everything, I was very upfront. Folks, I have a different philosophy. I'm a believer that, and by the way, I did offer to pay for the date, okay? And just so you know, I was very upfront about that. But I also believed in taking turns. So I wanted to show and demonstrate I could receive her generosity. Again, you guys are still harping on that. Let's move on from that. I'm going to go back to the sex questions I saw over earlier. Barbara, I've been dating someone from work for 6 months. He's never married, no children, hasn't really ever had a relationship. He's 62. We have only pecked kiss. How do I move this along? Well, why not find out what you both seek in a relationship? Why not find out what you both seek in a relationship, what type of relationship you're looking for? What does commitment look like for you? And how does the dating process work for you? So first, Barbara, ask that question of yourself and then invite him to answer those questions as well. But Jonathan, that's like too much. Like, this is called grown-up conversations. Why is it human beings are so reluctant to have grown-up conversations? Folks, I have a book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Up, and Spiritual Work. There's a link below to get a copy of my book. Chapter 1, speak your truth, do it with kindness. Your truth is your feelings. Your truth are your opinions. Your truth is your perspective. Chapter 9 says if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Why not ask these questions instead of, Jonathan, if I bury my head under the sand, I know magic fairy dust will change everything. You know, human beings somehow believe magic fairy dust is going to change every wrong thing in your relationship. If I bury my head in the sand enough, if I sweep it under the rug, you know what? Going back to the date, and I'm really proud that I messaged her to check in. I'm like, here, I want to have a grown-up conversation with you. I checked in. She had a grown-up conversation with me, and it was done. From the moment we met till the time, not even 24 hours went by, but at least I'm not pining. Oh my God, could you imagine, Jonathan, if I didn't write her and she didn't want to see me again, then all of this time, and then you're wondering what she's thinking. He's wondering what she's wondering what you're thinking. I'm wondering what she's thinking. Like, fucking have grown-up conversations, folks. Barbara, have a grown-up conversation with him. It's been 6 months. If the penis has gone inside the vagina, you can have a grown-up conversation. Who wants to join the hot seat? Debbie says, you're definitely a gentleman. Thank you so much. I haven't always been a gentleman, and sometimes I'm inept. Sometimes I'm myopic. I'm not perfect. Jojo says it's hard to have these conversations, especially in the very beginning of dating, when everything is just jokes and giggles. Bullshit. I'm like, I go for the jugular. Like, folks, I'm like, look, are you an emotional grown-up? Can we have a grown-up conversation? But Jonathan, it's all supposed to be giggles and jokes in the beginning because that's how you hook one another. That's how you get attached to the wrong person. Folks, many of you know my dating vows. If Todd wants to jump in on this, he's more than welcome. My dating vows. This is how to have a grown-up. By the way, there's a link below to get my dating vows. Have you ever heard the saying, women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of commitment? The dating vow is the following. You each recite the following. I agree to explore the process of getting to know you with the intent to declare something serious within 3 to 6 months. I agree to be monogamous sexually while we're having regular sex together. I agree not to actively seek and meet and date others while we're in the dating process, including taking down our dating profiles. I agree to speak up if this isn't working for me versus pulling back, ghosting, or disappearing. I agree investing regular time in the process to getting to know you, which looks like the following. We spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy. Ladies, 90% of men won't agree to this because women will have sex without any commitment. Ladies, you folks have duct tape on your mouth. You don't so few of you actually set boundaries or make requests. But the women who are using my dating vows, and there's a link below to get a copy of my dating vows. It's in the show notes, okay? It's in the show notes. You just click the button and click the link and you get my free. But so many of you have duct tape. But you know what? The ladies who are using this, I get emails after emails. Jonathan, I can't believe how this worked. Having grown-up conversations actually works, ladies. Okay. That's my intensity. Julie says, I thought Jonathan was getting out the duct tape. Well, it looks like I did. Co-creating says, my guy stopped chasing when I said no to him a few times. I actually respect him for that now and want to get back in his good graces. What do I do? Men, it's one thing to set a boundary. It's another thing to say no. Now, let me just differentiate this. When you reject someone, it can hurt them emotionally. Just recognize when you reject someone, it can hurt them. By the way, nobody's donated to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Can someone give some love to me tonight for the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund? Hit that little $sign. Our goal is $50 before we wrap up tonight. If you found value in what I shared, I'd love to have some love, because I'd like to fill up the scholarship fund. Okay, men and women don't want to feel rejected. So when you say no to a man, that can feel like a rejection. Setting a boundary is simply expressing how you operate. Okay, there's a big difference. You could say something like this. Before I'm physically intimate with a man, I like us to build trust with one another. And I recognize trust takes some time. I don't know when that is, but I believe that if we're going to be physically intimate, I believe in monogamy, I believe in exclusivity, I believe in building something together. That's how I operate. See, that's setting a boundary. When you say, I won't have sex with you for 3 months, that's like rejection to a man. So hold to your desires and state it in a loving way, what your desires are, rather than just telling someone no. Annette was kind enough to give us a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Valenka says, oh my God, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Catherine says, ladies, hold true to yourself and what you want. If the guy gets turned off by what you're doing, so what? He's not your person. Exactly. It is not your job to get in his good graces. It's your job to get into each other's good graces. And what I mean to say is it's your job to show up as an emotional grown-up. It's your job to be fun. By the way, I've gone out on dates where women have resting bitch face. I mean, it's just, oh my God, it's so painful to go out on a date with some women. They have no fun. They have no, the woman the other night was a blast. Okay. Let me just give her a props. But I've gone out with ladies who are like absolute stone, like stone. You got to loosen up. And by the way, men can be, oh my God, men can be jackasses as well. We have a population of people who just don't know how to get to know another human being. I think that's why alcohol was invented. Alcohol was intended to tear down our defenses, but that's not a good place to be either. Valenka says, Jonathan, you're so awesome with trying to explain to us what we are doing wrong, but at the same time, funny and fun. By the way, there's no such thing as right or, thank you, by the way. There's no such thing as right or wrong. There's just, how can we do things, that serve our best and highest interest? That's what I look at. But I appreciate you appreciate my sense of humor. Jenny says, talk your truth and duties will disappear quickly, or dusties will disappear quickly. Okay. Sandy's in the house. I met someone I really like, but he's already said he's already says he loves me. And now I'm kind of turned off because we've only seen each other 4 times. How do I deal with someone who moves faster than me? Okay. Great question. So I think what he means, it's not love. He's either lusting for you or he's experiencing limerence. Can someone write the words lust and limerence in the chat box or in the box? Okay. Limerence is extreme infatuation. Now, for a lot of people, they just assume that's love. But to me, love is wiping the vomit off a person's face that they're going through chemotherapy. That to me is the definition of love. Okay. So when you say you love me, just go, I feel very uncomfortable with that because we hardly know each other. And while I appreciate the reflection of care towards me, it takes me time to build trust with someone. So I appreciate your feelings. Thank you for sharing your feelings. But just recognize to me, love is about trust, and we have not built trust with one another. But I'm open to spending more time with you, but let's do so at a really good pace without the pretenses of all the words and love bombing and flowery and romance. Let's just get to know each other through social activities, hobbies, and mutual interests. That would be what you might want to do. Okay. Trista's in the house. My sister was dating a musician and he asked her to come to one of his shows about 4 hours away. If you were him, how would you feel if she declined because she wouldn't feel good about that? First off, 4 hours away, so I can completely understand why the decline. But if I was speaking at an event and I was dating someone and I wanted them to be there and they had the capacity to be there, then I'd be curious to know why she declined. I know I would feel bummed. So I mean, and I'm assuming he'd feel the way I felt. So that's how he'd feel, bummed out, because he wanted her to be there, just like I'd want someone to be at one of my speaking gigs. Okay. Jojo says, Jonathan, you're my favorite dating coach. You give great advice without BS. Thank you. She Became Magic says, intimacy is authenticity, trust, and connection, and we don't speak about it. And we don't speak about it initially. You were that, by the way, this is like what we should be talking about. Like, I'm here to say, listen, radical honesty, laying your cards on the table, and the rules of engagement. Radical honesty is being vulnerable, being authentic, being transparent without giving away secrets. Laying your cards on the table is expressing your past relationships and experiences, including what type of work you've done. That's laying your cards on the table. And then lastly, the rules of engagement. I'm looking for a relationship where we spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, blah, 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 blah. I want it before, if we're going to have this, I want to do the dating vows. That's the rules of engagement. If we're going to be physically intimate, I want to know that we're monogamous with one another and we're exclusive with one another. And I certainly don't want to be physically intimate if you're going to still be on the dating apps. That's my request. If someone doesn't want to adhere to that, then they can go out and date as many men as they want. They just won't get me. All right. Julie, what if he has walls up? A lot of men and women have walls up because of past hurts. A lot of men and women have walls up because of past hurts. It's not your job to tear down the wall. It's not my job, ladies, to climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. It's not your job to you're Shrek and you climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. That's not your job. Their job is to meet you on the 50-yard line. Okay? I'm looking for a woman who wants to meet me on the 50-yard line. It's so much easier to shake hands when you're on the 50-yard line. But Jonathan, men are supposed to chase women. Men love the hunt. Men love the chase. That's what they're supposed to do. Yeah, if that really worked out so fucking great, why is our divorce rate 50% for first marriages and our second and third marriages are 60 to 75%? If all the old, tattered, traditional dating advice was so fucking great, why are people so fucking miserable? Why is the highest population of singles these days in the ages of 50 to 60? Why is it so? We have an aging population of singles because that traditional old advice is just old. It's tattered. I offer a different perspective. I'm a contrarian. That's why you guys get pissed off whenever I say take turns paying for dates. But you know what that demonstrates? That demonstrates partnership. But Jonathan, I expect a traditional man. Well, if tradition works so great for you, then go find that traditional guy. By the way, Andrea just gave us a $10 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Julie Galipsy. I never had sex with my first boyfriend. We've had history and lived together about a year. He didn't want sex. Should I have pushed for it? I'm a believer sex is part of the decision-making process, okay? I think some people get married because they're so horny that they get married, and that's the last thing those two people should be doing. I think sex is part of the decision-making process. I think sex, and by the way, sex, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy, is half of the reason why you're in a relationship if you're not raising babies together. Like, no, I don't mean you're spending half your time, but emotional connection is a big part of it, plus teamwork. Like that's the whole ball of wax is emotional connection and teamwork. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. By the way, someone write that down. Emotional connection and teamwork. That's the majority of what a relationship is all about if you're not raising kids together. Okay? So should you have pushed for it? Hindsight is 2020. I don't have a crystal ball for you. Thank you for your advice and being the older brother looking out for me. You're very welcome. All right, this will be our last question of the evening. I would love some love to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. So give some love before we wrap up. We're just minutes away from taking this, our last question. My boyfriend said he doesn't get carried away by emotions because he doesn't want to lose control. He won't give in to them fully. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe it's healthy. Do you know why men die younger than women? Because they hold in their emotions. I believe this on my own personal perspective. I think when you stuff your emotions and hold them in, first off, if he's worried about losing control, then does he have anger issues? Does he have some deep-seated wounds that cause him to have outbursts? I mean, I'm just curious if that's what he meant by that. But sharing affection for someone, sharing care, sharing how another person makes you feel, I think is a prerequisite for romantic love. If he's not sharing it, then why do you want to be with that person? I'm sorry, folks. I feel as though, why do you want to be with someone? By the way, I said earlier, teamwork and emotional intimacy, that's the crux of a relationship. If someone's not willing to share how they feel about you, then what's the purpose of your relationship? What are you actually doing together? Well, Jonathan, we just spend all day on the phone because we live 500 miles away from each other and we're asking how our day's going. If you're not doing shit together and sharing how you feel about them, what's the fucking point? Does anyone get look at right there? Elizabeth says, emotional connection and teamwork. That's what it's all about. Don't ask for it. If they can't meet you, then ask, is this the relationship you want? Is this sinking in, folks? If it is, if it's resonating with you, please do me a favor, post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, see this link right here, jonathanasley.com/coaching. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Check out the links to find me on Instagram or all the different free gifts I have below. All right. I'd love to connect with you. Reach out. Okay. Holly says, this is resonating with me. Julie says, thanks, Jonathan. That's interesting. Good point. Brian says, teamwork makes dream work. Exactly. Kathy says, I totally believe sex is a part of it. That's why I want to be prepared if and when it happens. Amen. Tracy says, thank you, Jonathan. Elena. Betty says, great video. Folks, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Merrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank McCoy, Oak Hill Farms, Valanka, KM, Elena, Betty, Julie, Tracy, Holly, Brian, Lisa, Elizabeth, Marianne, Jojo, Give Me Freedom, Linda, Jennifer, Sandy, Julie, Maureen, Catherine, Andrea, thanks for the love. Everyone, big hugs. Wishing you a super duper wonderful day, evening. Bye now. Bye.